Thanks for coming along. So I thought I'd briefly talk a little bit about how we've been using mobile devices in health sciences. So a little bit of background first. I coordinate a course called Human Biology 1A, which is a Year 1 Semester 1 course in the Bachelor of Health Sciences. And it's a compulsory course in that program, so there are about 400 students enrolled in it. You might be wondering why I'm interested in mobile devices, and it's basically because I see them everywhere I look in class, whether it be an iPad or an Android device or a smartphone or a laptop. It seems like most people bring a mobile device to class now. These are just some photos of students working in my tutorials, and I've put arrows there, but it's pretty obvious that most of them have one or more mobile devices. I also surveyed students last year in my course just to find out what devices they have and bring to uni. And you can see the results there. So 78% have a smartphone, half of them have a laptop, and 30% a tablet. These results are actually fairly similar to the university-wide results from last year. So some of you will remember that the university surveyed students as part of the Student e-Experience project. And you can see my results are similar to the university-wide results. So probably similar to what you guys are seeing in your own classrooms. And just to ram home the point, we aren't alone here. If you look at some of the data that's been published, actually you see very similar results across Australia and the world. This is just smartphone use at university. The first report is National Student Survey from last year, so lots and lots of students surveyed across Australia, 77%. I have a colleague, Dr. Jamie Chapman, who works in Tasmania. He surveyed his faculty of medicine or health sciences there, I can't quite remember what it's called, and found 78% smartphone ownership, and EduCause, which surveys students around the world, including in Australia. Their most recent report found 62% of students have a smartphone. So, you know, a lot of people are bringing these devices to our classes. So how do we actually respond to this? I actually went around my particular school and around our faculty a while ago and actually asked people, you know, how they were adapting their classes because of all of these mobile devices. And some of the responses I got were actually pretty interesting. Some staff said, look, just avoid them or ignore them. And when I kind of thought about why they said that, some are kind of close to retirement, so possibly don't want to have to deal with this. Some staff said, look, you know, I remember when slide projectors, we all had to produce slides, and then we had to produce overheads, and then we had to produce PowerPoints, and now you're telling us we have to produce something for mobile devices. You know, it's just a fad, it'll pass, and next year it'll be something. But I think most of us probably can see that this isn't a passing fad, and the idea of mobile learning is something that's probably here to stay. You know, whether it's an iPad or some other device in the future is a matter of question, but mobile learning, I'm sure, is here to stay for a while. So we probably can't, you know, ignore these devices. Some of you have probably seen videos on YouTube of infants, you know, using iPads and not just bashing away at them, I mean actually using them, you know, to play games and view books and things. Thankfully, we don't have to worry about these guys for a few years yet, but we do need to think about the primary and especially high school students who are coming to us next year and the year after that. I was recently at an Apple Distinguished Educator Institute in Bali and met hundreds of educators, a lot of them from Australia, many of them from South Australia, teaching in high schools and primary schools. And they're doing incredible things with these devices. So the students that we get next year and the year after that, they're not going to ask us gently, like this email at the bottom here, which I got from a student last year, which said, do you think you could do something with iPads? Now we can, because we have Blackboard Mobile, so this actually isn't an issue. But students will just come expecting that we have resources for these devices. And it would probably get worse if you tried to visit the Apple Store on Saturday, like I did. They were doing a brisk trade in iPads, so it's only going to get worse, people. Some faculties, obviously, at our uni, like sciences, give everybody an iPad. My head of school, Professor Vink, gave all staff an iPad, so well done, Professor Vink. It was very nice of him, and asked us to explore their value as a learning tool. So that's what I thought I'd talk briefly, or show you a few of the apps, I suppose, that I've used. And in our breakout session, I'd love to hear more about what other people are doing with mobile devices. So I'm not like an app expert. I don't know everything about apps. I gave myself a little app icon there. But I'm not an expert on apps. I know about a few apps. But I'm sure there are people in here who know far more about all of the various apps that are out there. I do know a little bit about the medical anatomy apps because obviously they're relevant to my course. So here's just a few examples of some apps that I've used. The plus sign at the bottom means these are really simple apps to use. You don't really need to put any effort into this. You just load up the app, give it to a student or a demonstrator and it's done, but is useful. 2+ means you have to put a little bit of effort into it, and 3+ means maybe a few days worth of work. So these are some really simple things. For example, you can give lectures on your device. I gave this lecture just this morning on male reproductive systems. And it was mostly prepared on the iPad and delivered on the iPad, which is great because you can kind of go from this presentation to a virtual anatomy app to show something and then back to a presentation. The top picture shows one of my demonstrators recording student attendance in labs with an app. We have 5 alternate labs, 26 alternate shoots, so anything that helps monitor and track student attendance is a good thing. Obviously, most textbooks now come in iPad versions, so we moved to a textbook that actually came with that. We use apps in our labs. These are students using virtual anatomy apps in our Ray Last Anatomy facility. These don't replace anatomical specimens, but if a student is struggling to find a blood vessel or a nerve or point of insertion of a muscle or something, then these apps are actually really handy because they're things that are sometimes very hard to see in a pro-section. And when there's limited staff as well to help them, and there's 80 of them, 3 of us, these apps are really useful. And students, I've got feedback from students which I can show you later, and they really found this useful. And really easy to do, just load an iPad there and the students know what to do with the device. All of the handouts in my course are formatted as fillable PDF forms. Really simple thing to do, but pretty effective actually, because students can actually type away into their handouts on their mobile devices, and this works with all mobile devices as well as obviously computers. And you can see here what it looks like, and lots of photos I've taken of students actually using their mobile devices and typing into them in labs and shoots. The 2 photos at the top I like, even when they're given a brand new computer PC with a big screen, the students with their mobile devices still work on the mobile devices because they can just take them away and continue after. I'm not going to talk a huge amount about this because I only have 1 minute to go, but I've also developed interactive learning modules using articulate storylines. So some of you are familiar with Articulate Studio, but Storyline exports to HTML5 and iOS. So you can do some really incredible things that you can put online, pre-lectures for students to view that are quite short, so not long things. And we do this as part of flipped learning, which I don't have time to talk about today, and somebody else is talking about flipped learning later. And I'm also, at the moment, just experimenting with ebooks and particular iBooks here to create interactive textbooks. This is just a mock one that I wanted to show you of digestive system. This is actually a pot that we have in our museum, but it's really easy to turn it into an interactive specimen, so students can actually view this material anytime, anywhere. Apologies, this is a peptic ulcer, but you're not eating, so this might put you off. So yeah, these are just some of the things that I'm doing. I have surveyed students quite a bit, and a majority of them said last year at the end of the course that they were looking at buying one of these devices in the next 6 months to a year. So, you know, we really do need to prepare for them. And in my breakout session, I'd love to hear from people about, you know, what their experience is with mobile devices in their course. You know, what apps you're using, what are the challenges? Maybe rooms you have don't support mobile devices. Feel free to come along and chat.